Greetings, math fans. All right, so today's topic is graphing inequalities. So really, inequalities are very similar to graphing equalities, which when I say graphing inequalities, graphing really inequalities, and these are equations. But an equation is really an equal to sign. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph something like y is greater than 2x plus 3, for example. Okay, so it's almost the same as graphing y equals 2x plus 3. So before I actually start graphing, there are a couple things that you guys need to know. First of all, let's actually graph something though. Let's graph y is equal to 2x plus 3. So really quickly, if I graph y equals 2x plus 3, I'm going to go to 3 here. Let me draw a couple more lines here so we can graph it nicely. Okay, so I'm going to graph a 3 here on the y-axis, and then the slope is 2, so you go up 2 and over 1. Okay, and then you graph it, you draw your line, and there's the graph of y is equal to 2x plus 3. So here's the deal. There are two things that we're going to do additionally. Instead of graphing a normal line here, two more things we're going to do. The first is, if you see, and I'm going to do this in blue here, if you see a greater than symbol or a less than symbol when you're graphing it, okay, this means you're going to draw a dotted line. Okay, so right now you see that red solid line, you're going to actually draw a dotted line instead. Okay, so I'm going to, well, you know what, here I'm going to draw it a little bit smaller, but I want to draw it right here. Okay, so the same thing. I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to plot and do this in red as well. So I'm going to plot this point 3, and then I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. So I'm going to draw a dotted line. Okay, these really have arrows too. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing. Now here's the deal. That's a dotted line. If this was a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, this is a solid line. Okay? So this graph over here on the left, that's if it was a solid, that's a solid line. That's if it's a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Basically what it means, if you guys remember when we did on number lines, and remember if it was a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you drew a solid dot, right? And if it was a less than or a greater than without the equal to sign, it was an open dot. A solid dot meant, hey, it includes the point, and an open dot means it doesn't include the point. This is kind of the same idea. If it's a dotted line, basically dotted line means doesn't include the line. So in other words, that's not part of the solution, okay? And if it's a solid line, it does include the line. Okay? All right, so that's the first thing that I want to teach you guys. You got a less than or equal to, less than symbol or greater than symbol, it's a dotted line. If it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's a solid line. Very, very, very important, okay? That's the first difference. The second difference is you're going to do some shading. Shading. Okay? So this is the rule. If it's I'm kind of running out of a little room here, but basically if it's greater than or equal to, either one of those two, you're going to shade above the line. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, and if it's a less than or equal to, you're going to shade below the line. Okay? Because less than, think less than below, right? Less than is below, it makes sense. If it's greater than, you're going to go above. It's higher, it's greater than, it's bigger. Okay? So this is what I mean by shading. Do you guys agree this is y is greater than 2x plus 3? So actually this is the one with the So let me, it's getting a little confusing here. But this one, the dotted line I'm going to write here, this is y, I want to graph this. Y is greater than 2x plus 3. And this is going to be our y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 3. Okay? So, because it's the same one, right? This one's a solid line because it's greater than or equal to, and this one's a dotted line because it's just greater. So the shading means I'm shading above it, it's greater than, so this is what's going to happen. I'm going to shade above it. And that's the answer to that problem. That line and that shading, being a solid line and the shading, that's the solution to this problem. That's how I graph it. Okay? And same thing with the one to the right here. It's a dotted line, but it's greater than, it's just greater than, so again, I shade above it like that. Okay? So that's kind of your idea of shading above and below. Let me clear this out here and talk a little bit about above and below a little bit more. Okay? Because sometimes it gets a little confusing. So without even drawing, so if here's let's say here's a graph. Okay? And I want to shade, I'm not even going to give you an equation. I want to say it's less than or equal to. So less than or equal to means I shade below. Okay, do a couple more here. Let's say it looks like that. The graph will look like this. And I want to shade, I want to say it's greater than or equal to. That means I shade above. Okay, sometimes it gets a little confusing, and the only reason it gets confusing is because if I give you a graph that looks like this, I mean it's like a super steep graph like this, and I say it's greater than, even though it's slanted, look what's above it, right? Somehow this is above. See how it's above it? That's above. So that is shading above that line if it's greater than. So again, this is greater. Okay. Same thing if I give you, you know, whatever line, here's a nice little line like that, and I said it's less than, that means you shade below. And again, do you guys see this is below? This is below. So I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm kind of sketching it the whole, but it's a whole all the way to the left. It's almost like the left side of it. Okay, but the easiest way is to describe it is either you shade above it or you shade below it. Okay, above it or below it. That's all you do. Okay. If I give you, so we're going to do a couple examples in a second here. Do you guys agree that this one, if I give you, first of all, if I give you a horizontal line like this, that's like super easy. If I said greater than or equal to, then you'd shade above. Super easy. If I said less than or equal to, you would shade below. Okay, either above or below. Above or below. Got to remember that. Above or below. The difficult one is x equals. So if I give you something, of course, you guys should recognize, this is like an x equals 2 problem. So if I give you a vertical line like this, and I said it's less than, there's no above and below that line. Okay, so what I'd like you guys to do is think logically. Here, let's put a couple numbers here. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I said x is less than or equal to 2, well, think, which side do I shade? It's either the left or the right, but think logically. It's less than 2. Isn't 1 and 0 and -1, isn't everything to the left of that less than 2? So that's where you're shading. That would be the answer. Okay? As opposed to if I said x is greater than or equal to 2, well, isn't 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, isn't that greater than 2? So that would be shaded this way. That's the only one. That's not an above and a below one. Okay? So anyway, that's kind of the main idea. So just really quickly to summarize this guy, you basically have, if it's a greater than or less than, it's dotted. If it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's solid line. Okay, that's the first thing. And then shading, don't forget to shade. If it's greater than or equal to, you shade above the line. If it's less than or equal to, you shade below the line. That's it, man. That's all you do. You guys just have to be good at graphing lines, okay? I'm not going to give you anything complicated. It's going to be a nice y equals mx plus b form, and you graph it, and you're kind of good to go. So I have some graph paper for you guys. So if you look at this, day 6 notes, this is in your Google Drive, okay? So day 6, and let's just kind of graph a couple of these things here. Let's come up with a few equations, and then show you how it's graphed, okay? So if I said y, let's see, okay, y, just get rid of thing here. Okay, so y is less than 1/2 x minus 3. Okay, so we're going to do this in red here so you can see a little bit easier. Go down a little bit. So we plot our -3, and then it's 1/2, so it's up 1 and over 2. So you don't even need to plot, you just need 2 points. Now remember, the first thing is it's a dotted line because it's just less than. So you draw a dotted line here. Okay, put your arrows on that. And then it's less than. So where do I shade? I shade below the line. It's less than. Okay, that's it. That's the answer to that problem. Okay, so let's do another one here. How about y is greater than or equal to -2/3 x plus 4? Okay, let's graph it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 2 over 1, 2, 3. It's a solid line. So we draw a solid line here. And it's greater than or equal to. So you shade above the line. So you're going to shade above the line. Okay, and obviously this goes on to infinity. That line just separates it. It goes up to the left and down to the right, and you shade it, you know, all the way on to infinity, right, way, way, way far back. Okay, but that's basically what it is. It's really pretty easy, but please don't forget that. And you have to do the dotted line and the solid line based on whether it's a less than or equal to, or just a less than or greater than or equal to or greater than, and then you have to shade. Do not forget that. Okay. All right, so let's do a couple more here. Got a couple more grids. I got to do 2 more, okay? And then I got to do the special cases here. So y is less than -3x plus 1, okay? So let's go ahead and graph it. Plus 1, and down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Okay, it's a dotted line. And it's less than, means you shade below the line. And this is below the line. Okay, not bad. One more here. Y is greater than, we'll say -2x. There's no y-intercept. Sometimes people get confused by that. Okay, you just plot 0, right? So you plot 0 first, and the slope is -2. So down 2 and over 1. So there we go. And it's a dotted line again. And it's greater than, so what do? You shade above the line. So here it is. That's above the line. So I'm going to get really nice and close, because it truly is close, right? There we go, right above the line. That's your graph. Pretty easy, right? Okay, cool. So let's do, I have 2 special cases I want to do with you guys. So let me cursor down just a little bit more. And the 2 special cases are basically just an x equals and a y equals. So if I gave you guys x, well, I'll do y first. Y is greater than 3. Well, you guys should know it's a horizontal line at 3, so we're going to go up to 1, 2, 3. We're going to put a point there, and we're going to draw a dotted line. That's a horizontal line at 3. Okay, and it's greater than 3, so where do you shade? You shade above. Pretty easy, right? If it was less than, you'd shade below. That's pretty easy. Okay, and then the last example is going to be x is less than -2. So you guys should remember that's a vertical line. So we're going to go to -2 here, and we're going to draw a vertical line. dotted, of course, because this one's just a less than, or it's just a less than. Okay, and then remember I told you, you can't shade above or below this one, but think logically. It's less than -2. So what's less than -2? Well, -3 and -4. So if you shade this side, you're going to shade to the left, basically. Okay, so that's it. All right, cool. That's your graph. And just remember, dotted line versus solid line and shading, and then you're good to go. And that is graphing an inequality, right? And be careful, don't mess it up, right? If I said graph y is equal to 2x plus 3, you better not do any shading because you got an equal to sign there. If you got a y is greater than 2x plus 3, a y is less than 2x plus 3, that's a different story. Now you've got an inequality and you're going to do some shading. Okay? So that's it, math fans, for graphing inequalities. Have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.